Hey there, Designaholic. I'm Carrie Lawless, and we are...
Designaholic.
Hey there, Designaholic. I'm Carrie Lawless, and we are Designaholics. Welcome to our channel where we teach DIY hacks, how to achieve high-end design on a budget, and how to make the most money on your home when you sell through staging. On today's Designaholic DIY, we are going to teach you how to transform this amazing table, which we love the lines, it's just not really fitting our style. So we are going to transform this into a beautiful farmhouse style table. Stay with us. And the very first thing we're going to do is clean this table. Now, what I have here is bio cleaner. The most important thing about this is you don't have to rinse it, and it says tough on grease. What we want to do is, people generally wax their tables over the years and they use Pledge and things like that. We want to get all that off because we don't have to sand because we're chalk painting, but we do have to get any residue. Nothing is going to stick to, oh, excuse me. Nothing's going to stick to a greasy surface.
Are you trying to say I'm greasy?
Well, you know. Oh. So I have this all dried off, and we're actually going to start chalk painting. So I think in this case, you know, we're experimenting here, so we're going to start with the idea of using 3 colors and see where we go from there. Thanks. It's like a magic trick. So we're going to use these little plastic containers. They're my favorite. Typically, I like to put them in a bigger container to keep them together, but I didn't have the right size. All right, so the first, we're using different brands. I just mix and match because to me, all that really matters is do I have the right color. I've got Folk Art and what's this color? Oh, geez. What's it say? Castle, Folk Art Castle. We have Waverly Mineral, and then we also have Waverly, I couldn't find this in the bigger one. This is Cashew. So we're gonna have a container of each of these colors. And then we're just gonna kind of mix and match. So if you watched our other DIY, we painted the light fixture in this room, the chandelier, and our inspiration was this picture behind me with this beautiful frame. So we're basically going to do the same thing to the top of this table, and then we're going to paint the legs a little more of a solid lighter color. Now, if you notice, this table has a leaf in the middle. I have it spread apart just a little bit because I don't want this drying together, because when you go to break it open, it's going to kind of crack and you'll have other issues because of that. So I'm leaving the leaf in so we can do it all at the same time. That's the other thing. You definitely don't want the leaf out when you do it, because then when you go to put it in, it's not going to look like it matches. This whole thing kind of has to be done at one time. So we only have 2 chalk paint brushes. This is a Waverly brush. There are much bigger brushes that are a little faster to use on something this big, but this is what we have. We only have 2. Rondi's going to use this chip brush, but it all works just as well. So let me go ahead and get started and just see. I'm going to start with the darkest color first, and I'm going to start off doing like a striation and just kind of see where this goes. I'm probably going to change my mind about 15 times during this process, which is totally fine. And that's the thing. I hear people all the time wanting to know, oh, well, you know, what exactly are you going to do? That's not how I design. And I think that a lot more people would be brave enough to do things if they knew they didn't have to know ahead of time. So, you know, we're just starting out. We're gonna figure it out as we go. I've got these 2 colors. They're not drastically different. I don't know if you can see the dark and the light. And then what's really gonna set this off is when I take this creamy color and just kind of add that in the mix. Not sure how much of that is really showing up. So we're just gonna give this 1 coat. Try not to overblend. I have definitely overblended this a bit. You really wanna keep your colors separate, and I don't wanna go too stripey. I wanna have like bigger sections. And you don't have to go from one end to the other with one color. You You can, you know, do a section, come in next to it and fill in. But like I said, don't overblend these. You want that separation, and this is just our first coat. And then let's see, I'll just fill in here. Be sure to get your edges. There you go, and there's my light color. So I'm just gonna blend where they meet up, but I'm not gonna blend them all into one color. All right, let's get started. So Rondi and I are working right next to each other, and so what we're gonna do is whatever color she and I put on, it can be the same or not, I'm gonna pretend like this is one solid piece because it's going to be when we put the table together. So I'm just gonna take my brush and blend the two. The idea is there you go. So the idea is I want it not to dry and stick together, but I want it to look as though it's one piece. Here's the other thing, when you're doing your paint strokes, you know, there's different ways. I mean, some people chalk paint just by going in circles. I'm trying to do something a little bit different here to replicate the idea of wood grain, even though it's not gonna look like wood grain. So in this case, I'm just gonna go with the grain of the wood.
Okay, so do you feel using a chip brush versus
Chalk paint brush?
chalk paint brush because it's dense? Do you feel like I should be picking up a little bit more paint on my brush?
I would say so, and that's a really good point, because this kind of brush has a lot more bristles, it's gonna hold a lot more paint. So the idea is the more paint you get on at one time, the faster this thing's gonna go. That's why this brush will go faster, so yeah, you can pick up a lot of paint. All right, so here we're just a little bit, we're gonna blend out just these edges a little bit. We want them to look like they kind of go together. We don't wanna overblend it, but we don't wanna see the sharp edges of where you start and stop. So you blend your edges, not the center. One of the other things I'd like to point out is that I like to keep my strokes as straight as possible, just like wood grain would be pretty straight. So you don't want your strokes to go like, you know, this, and you know, you just basically wanna, there you go, just like that. So when we do the edges, we're gonna try and go with, like if I have the light creamy color here, I'm gonna try and continue that over to the edge. You want it to look seamless, because if this were pieces of wood, they would be seamless. See how this is like kind of going sideways? You just wanna go with a dry brush, and because look, that cream is beautiful, you don't wanna cover it up, so just kind of like blend it in. Yeah, I would get that off the brush somehow. Just blend it. It goes straight. Yeah, straight lines. Perfect.
There you go.
Perfect, perfect. All right. We're doing the second step of the chalk paint on the top. So we've got a really distressed look here. I'm really liking it, but we definitely need to add in some more. It's just not kind of finished enough. So we're gonna do a second coat and basically a more finished version of what we've got going on here. So let's get started. So right here, I'm gonna apply the darkest color. And you wanna use pretty much like organic shapes. Like you don't wanna be too stripy or too circular. You want something that you would see in nature, like how aging occurs in nature. So I'm applying the two colors next to each other, and I'm only going to blend it where they meet up. The other little trick is if you want a section that looks really kind of washed and distressed, you can take your brush, flatten it out on the side, and apply pressure and just kind of drag. And that's gonna give you that kind of weathered look. Really kind of washed and distressed. You can take your brush, flatten it out on the side, and apply pressure and just kind of drag. And that's gonna give you that kind of weathered look. If we can get a close up of just kind of right here and then right here. But that's how we get that, washed and weathered. One of the things you have to do if you are putting a second layer on top of chalk paint just grabs whatever you apply to it. So if I'm going into a dry section and adding into it, I'm just gonna grab a little bit of water. That's probably way too much water. But Anyway, that's gonna give you that washed look. Here, go ahead and try. Just dip tiny bit, tiny bit. Yeah. All right, cool. Now see if you can try. Yes, we are sharing a cup because we're not prepared. So see how I'm creating here? I'm not gonna take this light color from end to end. I'm just gonna put a little organic shape right in the center. And then I'm gonna blend this way and this way. One of the things you can do to get a more dramatic effect is in the middle of a really light section, take your darkest color and just kind of lightly brush it into the center without blending it out so much that you lose it. I'm tapping my brush against the side because I don't want to put a glob on. I just basically want to add some in, just like that. How do y'all think this turned out?
I love it so much.
I think we're definitely at a stopping point. We've tweaked it a little bit. I think we're ready to stop. What we're gonna do is, as soon as this is dry, we're gonna apply a clear wax, and then we may add a dark wax on top of it just to kind of accent, or I don't know. We're gonna do the legs and then kind of reevaluate and see if we can just keep it like it is. I really like it like it is.
I do too.
Yeah, it's very soft. So, all right. So we're gonna go ahead and apply. Where is it? Waverly has a really pretty color called Ivory. We did not use Ivory on here. We used Cashew, which is our light color. But I feel like we need to go even lighter on the base. So we're gonna just go ahead and start applying that with our chalk brush. All right, so we poured out the chalk paint into some containers. I'm just gonna dip this in. This is so super easy to do. You're just gonna brush it on. I may have to get a chip brush to get right up in there. It's hard to get that little spot, but you're just gonna use circular motions to get it into all these crevices. Dexter's paying us a visit. I don't know if y'all can see him. Hey. All right, ladies, y'all ready to get started on this? Awesome. Let's do it. So this light color over this dark is gonna definitely need a second coat. So we're just gonna go ahead and apply. It'll dry like almost instantly, and then we're gonna apply our next coat. We're ready to do the exciting part. So excited. We are going to make these little details look amazing. We're gonna show you how right now. We are going to take this sander. I am taking, because I have a lot of paint on here, I have to bust through the paint and highlight the details. So I'm gonna take the coarse side. This is probably, I would say, 80 grit. There's a fine side, or medium and coarse. So I'm just gonna kind of like hit the edges like this. Because my top is so subtle, I don't want to go super harsh on this. So once I get a little bit, I'm just going to go to the next section. Now, these areas right here, I like to really highlight those. It's almost like painting a picture. I'm just kind of painting the edges. So, there you go. That's enough for that. And you just kind of do that here and there. Now, if you get a section that you feel like you've done too much, we're gonna hit this with clear wax after, and then we have white wax. So if you wanted to, you could always hit it with a little white wax, tone it right back down if you felt like it was too much. So you can't really mess it up. And then the other thing is, if you did, you can always chalk paint it again. Lots of options. I love these little areas. So here's the parts that are the prettiest when you highlight them with a sanding block. So just the tips of the leaves, watch this. Oh my goodness, so pretty. See what I mean? It's almost like I'm taking a brush and just highlighting the edges. We're gonna go ahead and get started with sealing this. I'm gonna use the Valspar sealing wax. This I got from Lowe's. We love this product, huh? This is so good. We used it in that bathroom. It was amazing. So we've used a couple of different ones. This one's really thick, does a great job. We distressed a little more on the white than I would have liked. So what I might do after we seal it with clear, I might go back over with some white wax and soften it just a little bit, but we'll see. Natalia and I are gonna go ahead and just brush this on. We're using a synthetic brush, and we're just gonna brush in the same direction as what would have been the grain. And then Marty's just gonna kind of do an all over thing at the bottom. All right, let's get started. Here it is. This is the end of our masterpiece. Are we so happy with this?
We are very happy.
I think we're kind of proud of it. Anyway, I hope you love it. I hope it was helpful for you. And we would love for you to comment below. We want to know what projects you have going on. We want to know what it is you want to learn. Also, subscribe, ring that bell for notifications. And by the way, we did put the other coat of clear on here. It's fully protected, and we think it's a work of art. So excited. All right, thank you so much from Carrie Lawless and the
Design Holics.